Hello, biology students. This is Mrs. Murdock, and I'm going to give you a very quick tutorial on how to calculate what you need to calculate for the Algae Lab data that we've been collecting in those green cups on the windowsill. So this is what your spreadsheet is going to look like. I've already input the data for you. So everything that you collected in your data sheet is right here already, so you don't have to redo that. But there's some calculations that you need to make and some processing. So if you are watching my video that shows you how to do this, you're doing the right thing. So first of all, calculate the total change in percent transmittance in each cup. So this is what we did. Remember, we had 8 cups along the windowsill, and every day we put samples from those cups into a spectrophotometer that told us what percent of light was making it through the water every day. So on October 7th, when we started, the percentage of light getting through was pretty high. It was right around 80%. And then every day, it got a little lower and a little lower because the algae was growing and growing and growing and making the water a darker and darker green. So the question is, was there a difference between the control cups, which would have 0 milliliters of nitrogen in them? There was one here, control cup A had 0, and another control cup B also had 0. And the test cups that had nitrogen in them in increasing amounts, did they get darker than the controls or not? So we're going to see what the numbers show us. So to really get that, we need to calculate a total change, and really all we're going to do is we're going to subtract the biggest number in the beginning, subtract the number here from the beginning number. So whenever you want a cell to calculate something for you in Google Sheet, you start with an equal sign. I just did that on my keyboard. I typed an equal sign. Now it's waiting for you to give it something to calculate. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the October 7th value here. We're going to click on the cell, and that automatically puts that number right here. And now it's waiting for you to, it's saying, okay, what do you want me to do with that number? Okay, so you're going to subtract. I'm going to type the minus sign on the keyboard, and I'm going to type this cell, which tells me to subtract 27.6 from 82, and it will do it for you. So I just clicked on the cells that I wanted it to deal with, okay, in terms of saying I want to take 82, which is cell B6, and subtract B13 from it. So now it's in there, so if I type enter, it does it for me. So now the difference between 82 and 27.6 at the end is 54.4 percentage points. So here's the really slick thing, is that you can actually take this formula, right, where you're taking this cell at the top minus this cell at the bottom, and copy it for all the others so you don't have to type it in every time. And the way you do that is you take your white arrow, you see my white arrow there, and if you put it right down where that big thing, see how it turned into a black X? So now I click and drag that all the way across because I want all of these cells to do the same calculation, and I let it go and it's done. It does it for you. It's wonderful, right? So now we have a calculation of all these differences, total changes, right, that happened for each of these. So now I want to take the total change, which is the total difference, and I want, since I did two trials, I have a sample size of 2 because we did this experiment twice. We did 2 sets of cups that measured these different amounts of nitrogen or no nitrogen. I want to take an average of those 2 trials so that I only have one average to then put in my bar graph. So for 0, here I'm just going to write this. This was 0 milliliters cup A, right? And over here, this is 5 mils cup A, and this is 10 mils cup A. I'm just retyping this so you can see what I'm doing. And then 15 mils A. And then here is the second control, the 0 mils cup B, the B set of cups. Did the same thing. so that I could make sure that if something happened in my one cup, it wasn't just a fluke. If I can show that it happened in this one too, that makes it more reliable. The more trials you do, the bigger your sample size, the more reliable your data can be. So I'm going to put 10 mils B and then 15 mils B. There. Okay, so now I know what I'm doing. So now I'm going to go down here and I calculated my total changes. Now, combine your A and B trials for each nitrogen concentration and take the average of the two. Okay, and then I'm going to put them in this down here. So for 0 mils, now I'm going to take an average of the 2 cups that both had 0 mils of nitrogen in them. So again, my equal sign, and here is one of them, or actually, no, I'm going to have it calculate an average. So this is the neat thing. It'll do an average for you as well. So if you start typing AVER, you see how different values come up, and here's the one you want. Average is what you want. So you double click on that, and now it's saying you want an average. What do you want me to average? So in the parentheses, you're going to put in this one and this one. And then you're going to close parentheses and type enter. And it didn't do it. It didn't do it. Okay, so there's another way we can do it. We can just go that plus that, parentheses, divided by 2, which is how you calculate an average, right? We'll just do it that way. Okay, so I put my 2 cells in, this one, which is 0 mils, and this one, which is 0 mils, and I added them together in parentheses, and then I divided by 2. Now we'll get something, there we go, that's more like it. Okay, and then you want to kind of check your value. 54.4 and 55.8 look like, if you average them together, you're going to get a 55.1. That's pretty good. Okay. Now, you're going to do that for the rest of these too, but I'm not going to do that for you. I showed you how to do it, so I'm just going to make up some numbers here, okay? Just making up numbers, all right? Just so that you have something to graph. You need to do this calculation for all the rest of these, but you need to make sure that for the 5 milliliters, you're putting the 5 milliliter A number, which is here, and the 5 milliliter B number, which is here, and taking the average of those, and that would go here. And then for the 10 mils, you're going to take this number and average it with this number, and then put it here. And then for the 15, you'll go this number and put it there. Okay, so right now, I just made up some data so that I can go on and do the graph, and so you can figure that out. Once you have this table filled in, use it to create a bar graph of the data for the Algae Lab, and be sure to give it a good title and label. All right, so just like we always do, we're going to take concentration of nitrogen, and we're going to highlight average change of percent transmittance. So I've highlighted my data, including the top topics, right? Then I go to Insert. You guys have done this before when we did the homework graph. Chart. Okay, so I asked for a bar graph, so now we're going to go over here, and you know that here, right here in the setup, the top of it allows you to change it. So we're going to go to bar graph, and now we have something better. Okay, now again, I'm not going to help you with the title and the axis labels. You need to do that on your own. But now you know how to do the calculations and how to put them into a bar graph. So remember that to get to the place where you can do the labels and the title, you go to Customize and you go to Chart Axis Titles, and then you can fill in whatever you need to fill in there, and that's up to you. So that is how you're going to do the beginning calculations and graphing for the Algae Lab. Okay? So there you go, and I hope that was helpful.